Ethan Moore, a mid-tier travel vlogger, had spent the last year chasing content that would go viral. Haunted places. Abandoned towns. The darker the thumbnail, the higher the views. He wasn't brave, just desperate. So, when a stranger online sent him a link titled "Off-Grid Cabins for Rent, Authentic Forest Experience," he barely hesitated. The listing was short. No photos. No address, just coordinates and a number to call. The cabin was called Cabin 19. The message said, completely secluded. No neighbors. No phone signal. Perfect for filming. Exactly what Ethan wanted. He left the city at noon, his camera rolling for a travel vlog intro. The sun was high, the world still normal, but the GPS began to lose signal halfway there. When he followed the coordinates manually, the forest grew thicker, darker. Tall pine trees stood like silent towers, and his car tires crunched over a road that looked unused for years. By the time he arrived, it was evening. The cabin was smaller than expected, wood, dark-stained, and covered in moss. The windows were boarded, except for one at the front. A hand-painted sign hung from a crooked post, Cabin 19. No other cabins in sight. He set up his camera on a tripod. "This place is seriously in the middle of nowhere," he said into the lens, forcing a laugh. "Guys, this is Cabin 19, apparently built in the 1960s and, yeah, definitely creepy vibes. I'm gonna stay here 2 nights, alone, and see what happens." He walked inside. The door creaked like something exhaling. Dust floated in the light from his flashlight. A small kitchen, 1 bed, a single table. And in the corner, a fireplace with ashes still faintly gray. Someone had been here recently. He unpacked. Filmed a few set-up shots. Made instant noodles with a gas stove he brought himself. The silence was unsettling. No wind. No birds. Even the trees outside seemed to hold their breath. When night fell, the forest turned into black glass. The only light came from his camera's small LED. He set it on the table to record himself talking. "So, it's 2:58 a.m., he said, pretending calm. "Nothing weird yet, but I did find something strange." He held up a small brown diary, found earlier under the bed. Its cover was cracked and moldy. The first page had 1 line written in faded ink. Checkout date, August 23, 2028. Ethan frowned. It was only 2025. He flipped the page. Inside, short entries, all signed with the same initials, LR. The handwriting was messy, rushed, as if the writer had been terrified. Day 1, heard knocking outside. Nobody there. Day 2, same knocking. Same time. 3:12 a.m. Day 3, I opened the door. God help me. Ethan chuckled nervously at the camera. Okay, someone's definitely trying to mess with me. Nice one. He placed the diary aside. Time, 3:09 a.m. He was still talking into the camera when it happened. Knock. 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 3 hard knocks, slow, deliberate, on the door. Ethan froze. He stared at the door, every muscle locked. His camera light shook in his trembling hand. Another knock, louder this time. He forced a laugh, trying to sound brave. Okay, this is probably wind. Or, someone camping nearby. But he knew, there was no wind. No camps. No other cabins. He walked slowly toward the door. The knock stopped. For a moment, silence returned, thick and suffocating. Then, a whisper, right next to the window. Soft. Feminine. You came back. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. He spun the camera toward the sound, but saw only darkness. He ran to the window, lifted the curtain, nothing but trees. When he turned back, the diary was open again. A new line had been written. "He's standing behind you." Ethan's breath caught. He whipped the camera around. No one there. The flashlight flickered. And then, a sound from the fireplace. Something shifting inside the ashes. He approached slowly. The air stank of iron and rot. He aimed the camera, and saw fingers, black and burnt, twitching in the ash. He screamed, stumbling backward, knocking over the tripod. The light hit the wall, revealing handprints, dozens of them, smeared in soot. He bolted out of the cabin into the freezing dark, heart pounding, lungs tearing. Branches clawed his face. His camera swung from its strap. When he finally stopped, gasping, the cabin was gone. No lights. No shape. Just forest. He turned in circles. Every direction looked the same. And then, from somewhere behind him, a voice. His own voice. Recorded. Distorted. Coming from the woods. "Guys, this is Cabin 19, apparently built in the 1960s. His intro, playing back at full volume from nowhere. Ethan stumbled toward the sound, desperate, shouting, "Who's there?" No answer. Just his own voice looping again. "Gonna stay here 2 nights, alone, and see what happens." He looked down. The camera was still in his hand. Still recording. But on its small screen, the red light blinked, and the lens pointed at the cabin again. Even though he was deep in the forest, the feed showed the cabin's front door. And in that live feed, someone stood in the doorway. Tall. Still. Facing directly toward the camera. Ethan stood in the freezing dark, the faint hum of his camera the only sound in miles. The small LCD screen flickered, showing a live feed of Cabin 19. But that was impossible. He was standing deep in the woods. The cabin had vanished from sight, swallowed by the trees. Yet, there it was, glowing dimly on the screen. And in its doorway, a tall, motionless figure. The camera's built-in mic hissed with static. Then, softly, a voice whispered through it. "Come back inside." Ethan's stomach turned cold. He lowered the camera, blinking hard, trying to steady his breath. When he looked up, the trees around him seemed closer. He could swear they hadn't been that close a moment ago. He whispered to himself, "This isn't real. I'm dreaming." But the forest didn't care. It felt alive, watching. Listening. He checked the time. 3:28 a.m. He needed daylight. Just survive until morning. He pointed his flashlight ahead, trying to find the dirt path he came from. But there was no path anymore, only endless pine trunks and fog that crawled low across the ground like smoke. He started walking. Branches cracked beneath his boots. Every few steps, he glanced at the camera, the cabin still there on the screen, the door slightly open now. And then, something moved inside. A flicker of shadow. The figure was no longer standing in the doorway. It was inside the cabin. Ethan swallowed hard. "Nope, no, I'm done." He turned off the camera, but the screen stayed on. The red recording light blinked on its own. And then, a soft beep. The camera began playing back footage that hadn't been recorded yet. The video showed him, Ethan, standing in the middle of the forest, exactly where he was now. But in the recording, his eyes were empty. He was staring at the camera and whispering something. He turned the volume up, trembling. The voice on the playback said, "It doesn't let you leave." Ethan's hands shook. "Who are you?" he yelled into the dark. The woods answered with silence, and then, faintly, footsteps behind him. He spun around. No one. But the fog shifted like it was breathing. And beneath that soft hiss, he heard it again, the knocking. 3 slow knocks. Not from the cabin this time. From one of the trees. He walked closer, holding his flashlight toward the sound. A tree trunk, wide and scarred, and on its bark, deep indentations, shaped like knuckles. The knocks came again, from inside the wood. Ethan stumbled back, tripping over a root. His flashlight hit the ground, spinning light across the fog. When he picked it up, the tree was bleeding. Thick, dark liquid oozed from the indents, dripping onto the soil. He turned and ran. Minutes, or hours, passed. Time meant nothing anymore. He ran until his lungs burned, until the trees blurred into one another. Then he saw it again, the cabin, standing ahead of him like it had never vanished. The same crooked roof. The same boarded windows. The same hand-painted sign. Cabin 19. He should have been relieved. But the moment he stepped closer, dread sank into his bones. Because the door was wide open, swinging slowly in the breeze. And the smell, iron, smoke, and something rotten. Still, he went inside. He had to. His camera light swept across the room. Everything was where he'd left it, except for the diary. It was now sitting upright on the table, open to a fresh page. New words were written in dark, wet ink. You came back. You always come back. Ethan's voice cracked. What do you mean always? Who wrote this? The answer came in the form of a soft scratching, from the fireplace. He raised the camera. The ashes inside began to shift, forming letters against the soot. L.R. The initials from the diary. He whispered, L.R., who are you? The camera flickered, then, suddenly, the screen changed. No longer recording. Now it was playing something, another clip, dated August 21, 2028. The video showed the same cabin interior, same angle, same room, but everything was older, decayed, the wood darker, the air thicker with mold. And sitting at the table was a man, pale, trembling, covered in dirt. He stared into the lens with hollow eyes. I'm leaving this recording, the man said, voice shaking. For anyone who finds this place. My name is. The audio glitched. Luke Redding. I came here 3 days ago. I thought I was filming a travel video. Ethan's breath hitched. Luke Redding. L.R. The man on the screen continued. Don't open the door when it knocks. Don't talk to it. It learns your voice. It. The video cut to static. Then, a single frame, a distorted image of the man's face, too close to the camera, his mouth wide open, eyes bleeding black. Ethan threw the camera onto the table. The screen stayed frozen on that image, the face twitching slightly, like it was breathing. And then, the voice again. Ethan. He froze. That wasn't Luke Redding. That was his own voice, whispering from the camera. Ethan, check the next page. With shaking hands, he turned the diary. The next page was already filled, fresh ink still glistening. Day 1, heard knocking. Nobody there. Day 2, it whispered my name. Day 3, I saw myself walk in. He looked up. The cabin door, still open. The fog outside had thickened, white and glowing. And through that glow, he saw movement, someone standing just beyond the doorway. Same height. Same build. Same clothes. It was him. Ethan watched as his own figure stepped closer, slowly, calmly, like a reflection walking out of a mirror. The figure smiled. You shouldn't have come back, Ethan. He stumbled backward, hitting the wall. What are you? The figure's voice was soft. You're the next entry. Before Ethan could move, the cabin lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed everything. He screamed, but no sound came out. Just static, buzzing through the air, through his camera, through his own skull. Then, silence. When the lights flickered back, the doorway was empty. The fog was gone. Ethan stood alone, gasping, drenched in sweat. He grabbed the diary. The last page was still open, but now, a new line had appeared at the bottom, written in his handwriting. Day 4, I'm still here. He stared at it for a long time, trembling. Then looked up at the camera, the red light still blinking. The footage on the screen now showed him sitting exactly where he was. Same position. Same expression. Only one difference, in the video, behind him, the door was closing, slowly. Click. The sound echoed through the real cabin. The door behind him had just shut. The door had just clicked shut. The sound echoed through the small cabin, final and heavy, like a locked ceiling fate itself. Ethan turned slowly, every nerve in his body screaming to run. The door was closed tight. No one there. But he knew it hadn't closed by itself. He reached for the handle, cold as ice, and pulled. It didn't budge. He pulled harder, slammed his shoulder against it. Nothing. The door wouldn't open. The air inside the cabin felt thicker, harder to breathe. The camera, still resting on the table, continued recording, its red light blinking in a steady, heartbeat rhythm. He walked toward it, whispering under his breath, "This isn't real. It's just a place. It's just a whisper. You said that before." Ethan froze. The voice came from behind him, soft, almost kind. He turned around. And there, in the corner of the cabin near the fireplace, stood himself. Or rather, something wearing his face. The double smiled, tilting its head. Its eyes were darker, pupils dilated until only black remained. It spoke again, same tone, same voice, but deeper. "You said those exact words, last time." Ethan's voice cracked. "Last time? What are you talking about?" The figure took one slow step forward. The wood beneath its boots didn't creak, it didn't sound real. "You came here before. You all do. You film, you scream, you run." It stopped just a few feet away. "And then, when the cabin is done with you, it starts again." Ethan shook his head violently. "No. I've never been here before." The double's expression softened into something almost sad. "That's what I said too." Ethan stumbled back, grabbing the camera like it could protect him. The red light flickered. He looked at the screen, and gasped. The viewfinder wasn't showing the cabin anymore. It showed footage of the same scene, seconds ahead of real time. He could see himself on the screen, holding the camera, but the version on the screen was already reacting to something that hadn't happened yet. The future. He watched as the recorded version of himself suddenly screamed, looking at something above. Ethan slowly lifted his eyes toward the ceiling. Nothing. Then, a faint crackle. The light bulb above the table flickered, and behind it, the wood began to bulge outward, like something was pressing from the other side. Thump. 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 The bulge grew until a split appeared, and a dark liquid began dripping down. Ethan backed away, horrified, as the cracks spread across the ceiling like veins. A piece of wood snapped, and something fell. A hand. Charred, black, and twitching. It landed inches from his feet. The fireplace roared to life, flames igniting on their own, casting wild shadows across the walls. And in the flicker of that light, Ethan saw the hand's wrist. It had a name carved into it. Luke Redding. He screamed, dropping the camera. It hit the floor, still recording, lens cracked but unbroken. The red light blinked faster now, rapid, frantic, almost alive. On its screen, the feed distorted, flashing between the cabin, the forest, and a dozen faces. Different people. Men, women, all terrified, all whispering the same words. Don't open the door. Don't answer. Don't stay. The double, his other self, watched him, smiling through the chaos. They warned you, it said softly. But you came anyway. You always do. Ethan grabbed the diary, flipping through its pages in panic. Every page was now filled with frantic, overlapping handwriting. His own name appeared again and again. Ethan Moore arrived August 18, 2025. Checkout date, August 23, 2028. He won't leave. None of us do. He tore the pages out, throwing them into the fire. The flames burned brighter, screaming as they devoured the ink, literally screaming, as if the paper itself felt pain. The walls trembled. Outside, the forest howled, 1,000 whispers rising at once. He turned back to the double. What is this place? He demanded. The figure's grin widened. It's a recording, it said. A memory that replays. Over. And over. And over. It stepped closer, close enough that Ethan could see his own terrified reflection in those black eyes. The cabin keeps us. Every time someone comes here, it copies them. Replaces them. You'll stay too. Ethan's voice shook. You're lying. The double tilted its head again. Then why do you remember the diary before you opened it? Ethan froze. He had known about the diary, before finding it. He remembered flipping to the page with the future date, but hadn't he seen that in someone else's video? Except, no one ever posted about Cabin 19. There were no videos. The truth hit like ice. He wasn't the first vlogger to come here. He was just the latest. The flames dimmed. The room fell into near darkness. The camera lay on the floor, still recording, showing only static now. Ethan whispered, "What happens now?" The double smiled. "You film the ending." And before Ethan could move, it lunged forward, merging, collapsing into him like smoke and shadow. His body convulsed, eyes rolling back. The camera fell silent. For a long time, the cabin was still. Only the faint ticking of the camera remained, recording emptiness. Then, hours later, morning light. Soft, gray, cold. The cabin door creaked open. Ethan stepped out, calm, expressionless. He blinked at the daylight, breathing in the forest air. The trees were quiet again. The fog gone. Everything peaceful. He looked down at the camera in his hand. Its lens was clean, unbroken. He turned it on. The screen showed a fresh file, untouched. No footage of the night before. He smiled faintly, relieved. Maybe it had all been a dream. He loaded the gear into his car, started the engine, and began the long drive back to town. But the longer he drove, the more wrong it felt. Every bend in the road looked the same. The same trees. The same rock. The same crooked pine leaning over the dirt track. After half an hour, he looked at his GPS. No signal. The coordinates on the screen, identical to where he'd started. He looked up. The cabin stood in front of him again. Exactly where it had always been. That night, at 3:12 a.m., the cabin door opened on its own. The camera inside turned on automatically, its red light glowing faintly. The viewfinder flickered, showing Ethan walking inside, smiling calmly, as if for the first time. He set the camera on the table, adjusted the angle, and said cheerfully, "Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Cabin 19, apparently built in the 1960s. His voice looped perfectly, word for word, matching the recording from before. Outside, in the darkness, another knock echoed. Knock. 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 The cabin waited. The forest listened. And somewhere, deep in the static of the camera's feed, a whisper answered. Day 1.